Hello, I'm Michelle Kilikauskas. I'm the lay leader here at the Ridgecrest United Methodist Church. And as you may know, the 37th annual session of the California Pacific Conference of the United Methodist Church was held this past June. It was held via Zoom. Laura Miller and I were your lay representatives to the conference, and we'd like to give you a few ideas about what happened and point you to some highlights that you might want to check out on your own. One of the good things about the Zoom approach, it's just not the same as being there in person, but one of the good things about it is that all of the sessions were recorded, and they are all now conveniently, links to all of the sessions are now very conveniently on this one page on the CalPAC UMC website. It's calpacumc.org/AC2021. And if you don't have a pencil handy to write this down now, this will be at the end of the video. So all of the links are on this one page, so I would encourage you to check this out. As you probably know, the general session of the Worldwide Church was postponed for another year due to the pandemic. So the group of delegates from CalPAC that we elected last year have been working the last year to continue to prepare. And they had two pieces prepared for this June annual conference for CalPAC that might be of interest to you. One is a video that was about 20 minutes. It's called Engaging Our Heads and Hearts in Our Shared Story. And this was a lead-in to the conversations on Saturday morning and might give you some insight into where the delegation is going. Also, they have posted a Word document called Proposed Theological Grounding. It's in, I think, 8 different languages, maybe, that gives you an idea of the theological underpinning of the direction that CalPAC is taking. So if you are interested in that, I would encourage you to go to the link, read through it carefully and prayerfully, and it's all there for you. You'll find those under the presentations section on that same page. There are also links to the recordings of all 4 of the business or plenary sessions. Frankly, not the most stimulating of time at the conference, but if you're interested in the business, the links are all there for you. More interesting, and I found more uplifting, all of the worship segments are also on that website for you. And one of the things I found very meaningful and really uplifting the times I've been to annual conference is the various worship styles in different languages, different music styles, different worship styles. It's all there for you. I would encourage you to pick and choose. One, I believe it was the closing ceremony, had a beautiful, beautiful arrangement of a classic hymn that just made my heart sing. And I would encourage you to, if you're musically inclined, to check that out because it was really, really beautiful. The focus of the conference this year was being the church and the people of God in a time of pandemic. And the theme was restoration, parables of the pandemic. And there were 6 video clips prepared for the conference attendees that each one focused on a particular parable and had little clips of various folks from throughout CalPAC talking about their experience during this pandemic period and how it tied in with the theme of the particular parable that was the subject of that clip. The one that really caught my attention was the first clip. It's Parable 1 Introduction, and it used a Japanese method of fixing broken pottery called kintsugi as a modern day parable. And the idea is that rather than trying to repair a broken pot as invisibly as possible, and if you've ever broken your favorite vase and tried to gorilla glue it back together, maybe you know what that's like. That's not what they're doing here. The idea behind kintsugi is to use a combination of lacquer and gold foil to make an obvious seam so that the breaks and the missing chunks are filled in a very obvious and beautiful way. The idea is that when the pot or the broken piece is restored, it's useful again, and the repair makes it even more beautiful than it was to start with. So Bishop Hagia drew the analogy that brokenness is not the end of the story, that brokenness is at the starting point for God to restore us to something even better than we were before, more useful, more beautiful, and that the history of the vessel and our own personal histories enhance our witness and our relatability to other people. So I would encourage you to go and look at that first video, the first parable number 1. See what you think. In the hands of the master potter, our brokenness can become something beautiful. And as I was watching this video, I was reminded of Bill Gaither's old song. Those of you my age or older probably have heard Bill Gaither's song, Something Beautiful. And the chorus goes, something beautiful, something good. All my confusion he understood. All I had to offer him was brokenness and strife, but he made something beautiful out of my life. If you're feeling kind of disrupted and a little busted up by all the upheaval in your life caused by the pandemic, I would encourage you to believe that God can use your messiness right now as the starting point of what you are becoming in his service. So I'd also remind you of Paul's encouragement in the first chapter of Philippians that says that God, who began a good work in us, will continue to do that good work. So thank you for your time to listen to this clip. Thank you for the opportunity to be your representative at the conference. I enjoy it every year when I go. And grace and peace to you as you move forward as a person of God in whatever comes next for us here in the Valley.
Hello, my name is Laura Miller, and I am a delegate to the annual conference for the Ridgecrest United Methodist Church. It was my pleasure to attend in 2021, and we attended on Zoom, which I kind of like attending on Zoom because I like seeing where people are. But this time, I saw the insides of other churches. I've seen a lot of different churches in our conference, and it's kind of cool. But I haven't seen the outside now, so it's kind of like, where are they? But anyway, it was really I really like that part about it. But I don't like the part that we don't really meet new people, and so I kind of missed that part. But we do hear cool stories, and we did hear a couple of really cool stories. But and I encourage you to go check that out. Michelle talked about the parables of pandemic. They are really kind of cool, and my favorite was also the same as hers. So that's no surprise there, I guess. But one of the things that this conference stood out for me, I've attended several conferences, and this one stood out for me in 2 different ways. One is their focus on the difference and the reconciliation of, that they're trying to do with the fact that CalPAC has some repentance to do about the acquiring of land that we have done against the Native Americans in California. And so in the San Fernando Valley, in fact. So there's some talk about that, and also about race relations, and a lot of talk about that. And Michelle and I have been in this discussion a couple of times, and one of the best things about annual conference, in fact, I wrote this down that I definitely wanted to share with you, and the best thing about it was if you only go to one thing at annual conference, I strongly recommend that you see the ordination ceremony. I love going to the ordination ceremony, and it was awesome because they had every single type of music that you could imagine in different places. They're diverse music, and it had a really wonderful message by the Reverend Faith Conklin. But the coolest thing about it, there were 16 candidates for ordination. God's still calling leaders in the church. And one of the things that Michelle and I were talking about is the difference between the retirement celebrations and the ordination celebrations, because the retirement celebrations are full of pastors that we would recognize and identify with very strongly. In other words, white guys. And the ordination set is a bunch of women as well as a bunch of people of color, and it shows the diversity and the change that is happening right now in our country and in our church. And it was beautiful because God's still calling these people, and I think it's a true blessing for me to be able as a delegate, and in fact anybody can attend an ordination ceremony, but I really liked attending these. I think I would go even if I wasn't your delegate, but I find the opportunity to pray for these new ordinands and their families, these new pastors, that this is the future for our church. And to see the future, it brings me hope, and it brings me a positive, just such a positive vibe from it. And in fact, one of the things I wrote down here is that John Sinau, he was one of the people who was ordained this time. He is a 4th generation pastor. Isn't that cool? It's just cool. Anyway, so there was a lot of different kinds of legislation that was passed. A lot of it was delayed because of the General Conference being delayed from the pandemic. All of those resolutions passed with a large amount, in the 90s. So it wasn't controversial in that way, but and I encourage you to kind of check into that if you're interested in that sort of thing. But most of the things that happened in terms of legislation at this particular annual conference were things that you and I would not disagree about. Things about budgets and which we don't agree, we don't have problems with. And also our church is changing, and you probably know that we don't have any district offices right now. They've gotten rid of them. We are doing things from home now. And so we are cutting back. They're trying to convert us from a place that we pay apportionments, that is, we pay a part to the general church to run our church and to administer it. And they're trying to kind of change the apportionment more into something that is like that kind of comes out a different way, as in like it rolls on. I forget what the name is. I wrote it down someplace, but it's not what's in front of me, of course. Anyway, but they're kind of on the process of changing that, and so that's what. So that's one of the changes that has happened that you may not know about, and also just the fact that we are when people are introducing themselves now, they're talking about the Native American people who used to live on that land. That's a thing now, and it's a big thing, and maybe not so much in this area, but maybe it should be. I don't know. Anyway, but there's a place that you can go and check out who owned the land before, and we'll try to put it in the notes so you can check that out. And if you've gone to any UMW events, you will have heard that already because they're doing that there too. It's just a thing now. So one of the things I liked is listening to the delegation that is going on to onto the conference to represent us at the general conference. And they were, of course, called back and told them, hey, you're not done yet because we haven't met yet, so we're continuing with you. And that's Cedric Bridgeforth and Mona Lisa Tudahali, maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure how to say the last name. Everybody just calls her Mona Lisa. Anyway, Cedric Bridgeforth, though, we know well because he used to be a DS in our area and came here. So you might want to know that they are our delegates to our general conference, or they're heading up the delegation to general conference. Anyway, it was a wonderful conference in so many ways. I love that story about the broken pot that is going down to the water and come back, and the path that's watered is the path that grows the flowers. So you never know what can happen out of brokenness, and I love the concept of restoration afterwards. So it was beautiful in so many different ways. So please go see something from annual conference, look it up on the website, and just enjoy yourself. Thank you.